Hey y'all, I am Dr. Nicole K-Mac. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, and throughout Black History Month, I have been highlighting Black psychologists who have made a significant impact on the field. Most recently, I talked about Dr. Joseph L. White, who was a clinical psychologist, and he wrote the paper Toward a Black Psychology in 1970. That article was released in Ebony Magazine. It took me a little while to get it because it's not easily accessible, but I got the article, I took some notes, and I want to come back with a brief little summary of what he discussed in 1970. To kick this article off, I'm going to read the first paragraph in its entirety because that is what had me set and determined to get this article. Regardless of what Black people ultimately decide about the questions of separation, integration, segregation, revolution, or reform, it is vitally important that we develop, out of the authentic experience of Black people in this country, an accurate, workable theory of Black psychology. It is very difficult, if not impossible, to understand the lifestyles of Black people using traditional theories developed by white psychologists to explain white people. Moreover, when these traditional theories are applied to the lives of Black folks, many incorrect, weakness-dominated, and inferiority-oriented conclusions come about. That is how he started the article. So you know Dr. White has some things to say. What I loved and appreciated about this article is that he then goes through and provides several examples, like concrete examples where a white researcher or a white social worker had the opportunity to observe a Black person and they made incorrect assumptions about that person. Part of it was because they were looking at it from their perspective, their lived view, what they viewed as a strength versus a weakness. And what Dr. White challenged people to see is, one, expand that lens, because what you're observing and judging this person on does not fit where that person is or what their strengths are, and you're missing the full picture. He goes into examples about the Black family and how you don't just look at who's in the household per se, but you look at the extended family. Who are all the adults and older children who are contributing to the success of that one child? Thinking about grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, boyfriends, cousins, all of the above. Is like it really takes a village to raise a child. And that strength, when you think about the family, is from that family-oriented perspective, not just looking at a matriarchy. He also discussed that within Black families, there was not this sort of like rigidness to gender-related roles and, identities in the home, that you could see a young teenager who was helping with the laundry, washing dishes, helping with their younger siblings. And that same young teenager was out playing ball with his boys, was dating girls, was a part of the track team. And what he said is, in a lot of ways, Black children were getting these life skills that made them more well-rounded as a person, they were better equipped to deal with some of life challenges. And those are the strengths that he encouraged people to capitalize on, to really understand when you're theorizing Black children and families. Dr. White also touched on the importance of representation, and not representation where a Black person has to be completely perfect and go above and beyond to be accepted, but realistic expectations and seeing themselves in the world so that they recognize what's possible for them. One of my favorite parts in the article, he talks about the duality of language in the Black community and how this really stemmed from protective factors when we think about enslavement, how language had to have two meanings so that the slave master heard one thing, but the meaning behind those words, the meaning behind those songs communicated something differently to the people who needed to know. And then he also discussed how even in day-to-day conversations that language in the Black community is never really about only the words. It's the words, it's the inflections, it's the body, the gestures, the body movements, all of the above, and that there is a safety and beauty in that. And for Black American children, there needs to be this respect of that language has meaning, that language is rooted in something, and that's a part of identity as well. And lastly, he talked about context matters when you're thinking about diagnosing. And I want to read this directly. He says, using a Black frame of reference with a Black patient should not result in the same diagnosis. And he goes into how there should be, taking into context and all of the things we've discussed, as there are differences, there are strengths, and really tapping into that is why a theory of Black psychology in the U.S. is needed. This has been a very enlightening process for me, really going back and looking at what those before us in the field of psychology deemed important. What was the work and the foundation that they laid? And this almost like personal responsibility of did we pick up and continue what they wanted? And in a lot of ways, we can see so many improvements in the field of psychology. We can see the diversity increasing, but we also know that only 5% of psychologists are African American. And so that gives us, again, as we're seeing progress, there is still work to be done. So this is a personal challenge that I am giving myself. Feel free to join. But if you are in the field, how are you forwarding the fight, the foundation, the movement that was set forth for us by our ancestors? And how can we continue to do those things to advance the field? This has been my pleasure. Thank you, Dr. White. He is, again, referenced as the Godfather of Black Psychology. This was very enlightening. Thank you.